Tonight, a Sask Party MLA who called the federal NDP leader a terrorist has been stripped of her additional MLA duties. Also, we look at the role of social media on voters and how they learn about federal candidates. Plus, the Regina Pats will likely acquire some big star power next season after winning the Western Hockey League's draft lottery.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Friday, April 11th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Hi there, thanks for joining us. A Sask Party MLA who called federal NDP leader Jagmeet Singh a terrorist has been removed from additional MLA duties. Humboldt-Watrous MLA Raquel Hilbert made the comments during question period 2 weeks ago.
We did not hear the opposition denounce.
Hilbert has now been removed from the Treasury Board, Saskatchewan Board of Directors, the Caucus Irrigation Committee, and as Deputy Caucus Chair.
I wish to apologize.
She has since apologized, but the opposition NDP say it's not enough. At a news conference on Friday, one MLA said Hilbert should be removed from caucus.
You're asking me a question. I will ask the Premier now. So she's elected official. So if it's coming from her, then it's okay for all people saying that, oh, this Durban guy is a terrorist. So I mean, this is huge.
Friday's developments, political columnist Marie Mandrick weighed in on the Morning Edition's political panel.
Well, I know where to begin. From a province standpoint, it's embarrassing. We look like stupid rednecks because this is an elected official. Scott Moe has an MLA that looks like a stupid redneck, and he is not apologizing for someone who said something that looks like it's coming from a stupid redneck. And this is hugely problematic for Scott Moe, the Saskatchewan legislature as a whole. The NDP, by the way, should have raised this days ago when it happened as a point of privilege. They could have. One suspects they may be a little bit of political interest in the NDP not doing that, but that's a minor aside, as is the fact that it was absolutely ridiculous for Speaker Todd Gowdy not to force her to apologize at the time. Had that been dealt with at the time, maybe it wouldn't have been at least as big a politically embarrassment issue. But I don't know if Scott Moe cares. Like, I mean, if you're basically sitting there and saying, well, it's good enough for her to withdraw the comment and apologize, and I'm satisfied. He didn't speak to the media afterward. This woman didn't have the courage to justify her remarks or come before the camera and apologize. So it's political cowardice, which often happens. This is something that has occurred previously in the Sask Party caucus. Former Speaker Randy Weeks raised it during the campaign, and one might say, okay, once again, it was a political decision to raise it at that time. But when you have people saying things on the inside of the Sask Party and then blurting them out on the outside, and this is a whole new selection of Sask Party backbenchers doing this, where is the growth? Where is the improvement? Where is the accountability from Scott Moe? And how embarrassing is this? Like, if I sound a little bit disgusted, I probably am, because you get so sick and tired of this because it's the same thing over and over again. Saskatchewan is a bunch of rural rednecks. Saskatchewan is a bunch of rural rednecks. And you're tired of it. But you're even more tired of the people that come forward and reinforce this image and are cavalier about the way they do it. And Scott Moe is in that category. This MLA is in that category. The whole Saskatchewan legislature is now in that category. No accountability here. It's embarrassing.
The province is facing some heat from the opposition just days ahead of a new healthcare facility opening in Regina. The new breast health center is to open Monday, but won't take patients until later in the month. The NDP is accusing the Sask Party of failing to provide breast care options in Saskatchewan. The NDP says out-of-province private care is expensive when a mammogram here costs as little as $135.
472 women have been sent out of province, and like I said, that's terrifying for them. Investing in healthcare is something that we need to do, and we should never have been in this position to begin with.
In a statement, the province pointed to several initiatives, including temporarily expanding breast cancer diagnostic imaging capacity in Saskatoon and Moose Jaw to support patients from Regina and southern Saskatchewan. It also says it will reimburse travel and accommodation expenses for those who have to travel outside the province. On the federal campaign trail, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is campaigning in southwestern Ontario, talking about his party's economic plan, but he's facing criticism from within his own party that he should refocus the campaign on the threat of Donald Trump.
Liberals and lobbyists want me to stop talking about high food prices. Well, I'm not going to do that, because single mothers shouldn't be going to bed hungry, worried about how they're going to feed their kids in the morning. They want me to stop talking about the doubling housing costs during the lost Liberal decade. I'm not going to stop talking about that. They want me to stop talking about the rampaging crime that's overtaking our streets and the overdose crisis Liberals caused that has taken the lives of 50,000 people. I will not stop talking about that either.
Poilievre was also asked about the views of a local Conservative candidate on abortion. He says there would be no laws passed restricting access to abortion under a Conservative government. Meanwhile, NDP leader Jagmeet Singh faced repeated reporter questions about what he hopes to achieve after he stopped saying he's running to be Prime Minister.
We want to make the case for Canadians that Canada works best when one party doesn't have all the power. And when people have voted for New Democrats, they voted for a party and leaders that have gone to Ottawa and fought for them and delivered for them. Because people voted for us, we were able to deliver things like dental care and the first steps towards national pharmacare.
Singh cited other policy achievements by leaders who preceded him. The session with reporters followed a speech at a conference convened by the institute named after former NDP chief Ed Broadbent. The Red River cart is a symbol of Métis heritage and identity. Who owns one is the centre of controversy in the RM of Kelross near Lestock. Members from the village's Métis Local Number 8 made their case at RM Council. They say they ordered it to be built in 2012, but the RM says they own it because they helped pay for it through the village of Lestock.
The Red River cart is from our lands. We built it. It was based on our ingenuity, Métis people's ingenuity. It's a statement. It's an iconic statement of who we are. And I would ask the RM why they are fighting so hard. Is that an iconic symbol to them?
Doucette says the village helped fund it because Métis Nation wasn't incorporated at the time and couldn't access grants. The village has since been absorbed by the RM. The cart was on a local Métis president's land until it was taken by the RM. The debate is now about where the cart belongs. Doucette says council was respectful and listened to their presentation, but wants 2 months to make a decision. We tried to reach the Reeve for comment, but did not hear back. An administrator confirmed the 2-month timeline. The Regina Pats are likely going to acquire some star power this season. The Western Hockey League just announced the team won the draft lottery. Excuse me. They get the first pick in the Prospects Draft. Liam O'Connor has more.
The Regina Pats are coming off a pretty rough season. The team won just 16 games and lost the other 51. It didn't make the playoffs. And that earned it a spot in the WHL Draft lottery along with 5 other teams: Moose Jaw, Kelowna, Kamloops, Wenatchee, and Red Deer. The Pats won the first overall pick, giving the team a chance to turn the tide this coming season. The Regina Pats have only had the first overall pick 3 times in franchise history, and the last time they had the first pick, they chose Connor Bedard.
We know how big of a deal it is because the Pats have gone through this already with Connor Bedard. So when he comes to the Pats in the Western Hockey League, you speculate on what kind of a deal it's going to be and how big of a deal it's going to be. But now we know.
It's been widely suggested by scouts that this time a Regina boy is in the running for that pick. A highly touted prospect, Maddox Schultz, is one of the most talked about phenoms in the minor league right now.
That's my understanding, and I think everybody's understanding, is that it will be Maddox Schultz or something really crazy will have happened for him not to be picked first. When you can have an elite level star player stay at home, play locally, represent the town he grew up in, and now the team, I think it's a dream scenario, not only for the Western Hockey League and the Pats, but for the city of Regina.
prospects eligible for the draft are 2010-born players. That fits the bill for Schultz, who recently celebrated his 15th birthday. He was given the exceptional status at 14 to play up in the U18 AAA Hockey League. However, Schultz has said he won't seek exceptional status for the 2025-2026 WHL season. Instead, he intends to opt for a new hybrid option in his young age, which allows him to stay with his U18 team, but still play up to 34 WHL games. If selected by the Regina Pats, he'd be the first player from Regina to be taken first overall since the draft started in 1990. The first round of the draft is May 7th. Liam O'Connor, CBC News, Saskatoon.
Well, spring has sprung and the wind is back for a visit. A sunny but windy day in Saskatoon on Friday. Temperatures climbing well over normal for this time of year. Looks like the weekend will stay comfortable temperature-wise, but the clouds might return. Ethan Williams will have more on that in your forecast after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Liberal leader Mark Carney took time away from the federal election campaign on Friday. He was meeting with his cabinet committee on Canada-U.S. relations and national security. Carney says the focus was on how tariffs are affecting Canada already.
In the last week, there have been a lot of developments in terms of U.S. tariff policy, reactions from others, including China, a really marked tightening in financial conditions, a slowing, the initial signs of slowing in the global economy, impacts that we're starting to see unfortunately, in the Canadian economy, particularly in the Canadian labor market.
Carney said he gave officials instructions to prepare the next government for negotiations with the U.S. after the federal election. Markets have been in turmoil with U.S. President Trump repeatedly changing course on tariffs. As of now, there are still 25% tariffs on Canadian steel, aluminum, and auto imports to the U.S. Canadians have been voting federally for more than 150 years, but it's only recently that they've been using social media to learn more about political candidates. At the same time, taking in information that is often far from reliable. Rob Brown has more on the implications.
Up until 2015, voters in the West spent most of Election Day in the dark. Seriously, there was a literal news blackout. The media couldn't share results from the East while the polls were still open in the West because officials thought if people in BC knew how people from Newfoundland to Ontario had voted, some British Columbians might change their vote or not vote at all. Social media brought that to an end.
For the first time, you're going to see it all, no matter where you live, no matter when the polls close in your riding.
Today, another news blackout is keeping many Canadians in the dark. Let me explain. Whether it's Facebook, X, YouTube, or TikTok, we all know social media has changed how we vote and how politicians connect with voters.
I'm in Osoyoos right now, not far away. In Penticton, my dad took us camping here when I was a kid.
So let's talk about what I was doing in my 20s and what Pierre Poilievre was doing in his 20s.
The concern lately, voter manipulation through mis- and disinformation.
Now, federal officials are warning of a campaign on the Chinese social media platform WeChat. They say the content contains false stories about Liberal leader Mark Carney.
Point is, the impact of social media on our electoral process is always evolving, and this election is no exception. The landscape is not the same as it was 4 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, there are these fairly major differences.
Angus Bridgman studies this stuff. He heads a Media Ecosystem Observatory, which is a collab between the U of T and McGill. And he's worried about some major changes at Meta, the company that owns Facebook, Instagram, and other platforms.
In 2021, Facebook had Canadian Election Integrity Initiative. It was dedicated for the Canadian election. They had data transparency through a platform called CrowdTango, which gave journalists and researchers access to data. Not enough, but some. And if you were a Canadian and you wanted to learn about the election, you could go on Facebook and you could find content from any Canadian news outlet on there. None of those things is true today.
That last point about news content is a particularly big deal. Here's why. During this campaign, Bridgman's team has been asking Canadians which platforms they use as a source for political news. Facebook and Instagram, as you can see, are two of the top three. even though Meta banned news content from mainstream media back in 2023. Let that sink in. Most people who use social media for their political news say they're getting it from sites that don't allow news. And Bridgman says most users aren't aware of that, meaning those people may not know what they're missing, and it's a lot.
I mean, our estimate last summer was 11 million, around 11 million fewer views of news articles per day,
And
which is
given what's,
considerable.
no doubt, and given what's substituted for that, or at least in people's minds, they think they're reading the news. What are your concerns about the current context we're in right now, this federal election?
The concern is that we're walking into an election that is incredibly important for the future of our country. There are different visions of the country being presented, and that Canadians aren't able to access information or aren't being shown information and don't know that it's being blocked. And so they're able to go through an election without getting access to sort of that much needed information that fundamentally is critical for a democracy to succeed.
He is heartened by the fact Canadians are turning to mainstream media in droves right now, but those organizations just don't have the reach they used to. Meta tells us it's committed to ensuring the integrity of the election, though it has no plans to lift its news blackout. So, if you don't want to be in the dark, Bridgman says you shouldn't assume your social feeds will deliver reliable, fact-based news coverage. You still need to seek it out.
And our weather specialist Ethan Williams joins me now. I come back full of allergies. I am probably the only person right now praying for rain because I want the snow mold to disappear.
You're probably going to get rain as we head into this weekend because there is some of that in store, maybe a little bit more snow in store as well. Not a whole ton of it, though, I don't think. But in the meantime, a lot of the snow melting away through the province thanks to these very warm temperatures that we have seen into Friday here. Over 20 degrees for a lot of us. You know, daytime highs normally for this time of year should be around plus 10 if you're in south and central. Even up into northern Saskatchewan, above the freezing mark. North is a little bit on the chillier side because we have a low pressure system that has been moving through, and that's been bringing some rain showers, changing over to snow. Continuing to change over to snow as we go into early Saturday. As that system begins to clear out, attention turns to southern Saskatchewan because we have this area of low pressure developing. First few sprinkles of rain going to be moving through southwestern Saskatchewan as we get into Saturday evening. And then this whole system starts to move eastward as we get into early Sunday morning. So places like Regina and just south of town and into southeastern Saskatchewan, going to start to see that develop in those early morning hours. I think in the higher elevations around the Cypress Hills, that'll change over to snow for you as we get into early Sunday. This model seeming to suggest that that snow will continue to move eastward, but I'm not entirely sure how much snow we're going to see sort of east of southwestern Saskatchewan just because temperatures are going to be a bit on the warmer side. But that rain continuing on, kind of changing over to some wet snow into southeastern Saskatchewan as we get later into Sunday, and then high pressure clearing things out. So I think this model sort of gives us the best indication of what we're going to see here rain-wise. A general maybe 5 to 10 millimeters through the south of the Trans-Canada corridor, maybe pockets of 10 to 20 millimeters in there. I'm putting the snow amounts in here just in case, but again, generally I think this is a rain and maybe some wet snow event. Not a whole lot of accumulating snow expected from this. Northern Saskatchewan, again, the system that we're seeing overnight into Saturday bringing us, maybe a few millimeters of rain, but again, this is generally going to transition over to snow as we get into early Saturday morning, and there could be some pockets of up to maybe 5 to 10 centimeters the further east you go. Wind has been breezy through south and central as we've gone through Friday, thanks to that low moving through the north. Things are going to die down, though, as we get into Saturday. For southern and central Saskatchewan, it's mostly a moisture event and less of a wind event for us as we get into Sunday and Monday. So for Regina, it looks something like this. Not a bad Saturday before things take over on Sunday with that rain, and then we're back into the nice temperatures with some breezes for the start of next week. Saskatoon, I think you're just catching a chance of some showers there into Sunday before those temperatures bump back up and we get some cloud cover into the beginning of next week. So snow mold, Sam, shouldn't be much of an issue by this time next week.
Let it rain.
Indeed.
Thanks, Ethan.
You bet.
It was mascot madness at Winnipeg's International Airport Friday. 11 of the city's most popular mascots were there to showcase some of the city's best attractions and unique experiences, and of course, to give visitors a warm welcome to the Prairie City. We'll be back after the break. Welcome back. A Toronto Raptors fan has done what most NBA players dream of.
3, 2, 1.
Liam Rodriguez sunk a half-court shot at halftime during Wednesday's final home season game. He says he hasn't played organized basketball since elementary school, but spent last weekend taking some practice shots, and ooh, did it pay off.
I took the shot. I honestly thought I left it a little bit short. So I wasn't expecting it to go in, and then it just fell through, and then it was just a bit of a blur from there.
Liam's mom was at her first Raptors game. She joined him on the court after that amazing shot. The big prize, Liam wins season tickets for next season. And Ethan is back with one last look at your weather.
And you're saying that there's hope for all of us who haven't played organized basketball since elementary school to win
With
season
your height.
tickets. Look at that. Exactly. Slam dunk. Well, forecasts overnight tonight actually looking not too bad. We're talking about lows around the freezing mark. Again, a little bit of some clearing, I think, for many of us through south and central. Through the north, a bit of a different story. We're still seeing that snow and that rain a little bit at times. Starting to clear out for the Churchill region through the morning, but that snow will linger through the day in the far north. Still seeing a wet snow and maybe a little bit of some rain mixed in there, especially into western sections. We get into south and central, and of course we have a very nice start to the day above the freezing mark as we begin Saturday, and temperatures taking off above the plus 10 mark into the double digits into the afternoon. A little bit of increasing cloudiness, and again, later into the afternoon hours, that's when we see the first sprinkles of that system that's beginning to move through. That heavier rain and maybe some of that snow that we're going to be seeing, Sam, begins moving in as we get into the later hours on Saturday and into Sunday. So enjoy Saturday while you can.
Oh, I absolutely will. Thanks, Ethan.
You're welcome.
And before we leave you tonight, dozens of craft breweries across Canada, including Saskatoon's High Key Brewing, are teaming up to produce IPAs that use 100% Canadian ingredients. The campaign is called Glorious and Free in response to U.S. tariffs and threats of annexation. Ottawa-based Dominion City Brewing launched the campaign, and they've provided an all-Canadian list to suppliers of suppliers to participating brewers. More than 40 breweries have signed on, with a chunk of profits going to a charity of their choice. And that is it for us this week. For more news anytime, head to cbc.ca/sask or subscribe to CBC Saskatchewan's YouTube channel, or download the CBC News app on your phone or tablet. Thanks for watching.